I made a post about it the other day because that's what I've been doing is posting about everything.
I actually really like that you're doing that. It's nice to see anthology because you get like, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this too, where you get like either the really hands-on anthologies who are like, hey, this is what's happening, or you get the people who barely even do a book launch and you're like, what happened to this book? Those are kind of sad because there's so much potential with anthologies.
I don't have necessarily all the right levers to pull, but I'm going to pull whatever levers I can find.
And it's just start. Like, I feel like all you can do is just start, and then you'll learn like what doesn't work for you and what does, and
Yeah.
it'll keep getting easier and easier.
Yeah.
So.
What makes you as a writer?
So I'm Elizabeth Suggs. I write lots of different things, but I especially like the scary. As you'll see in my story, it's like kind of horror slash thriller with romance, but like maybe love story, not really romance. I really find joy in like developing characters and the emotions of a scene the most. And I think that's why I always fall into romance and horror, because they're both like heightened emotional states.
What are you reading now? Who do you like to read right now? And what would you recommend we check out?
So I've been kind of obsessed with thrillers lately. I like I it's ridiculous. I've been reading a ton of Ruth Ware, who wrote The Woman in Cabin 10, 12. I have it here. Anyway, it's back there somewhere. And then like a Turn of the Key. And then also I just read something by Riley Serger, and it was like the last time I lied. So I really like Ruth Ware and Riley Serger. If you like thrillers and mysteries and things that just like make you just keep questioning to the very, very end, it's like a really almost intellectual way of doing it. Like, I mean, writing a book, no matter how simple it is, I think is actually very challenging. But there's just something like a whole other level when it's like you have to like think about it, and there's like so many puzzles to like an entire like a jigsaw puzzle, I guess. Yeah, there's so many pieces to a jigsaw puzzle. I guess that's the kind of writer I also want to be. And if you want to be like a thriller writer, or you should check out those people. But I'm obsessed with them right now.
I like that metaphor of like jigsaw puzzle, and I'm thinking like there are some puzzles out there that are not your standard jigsaw, and they kind of have images within images, and those are like really tough. That's an interesting way of thinking about a story being put together. I have to think about like nesting dolls of like stories within stories. But I like the jigsaw puzzles within puzzles idea. Thank you. So the next one is I would love for you to introduce us to your story. We don't necessarily want spoilers, but for those who read and enjoyed your work in this anthology, Cost of Living, we want to give them a peek behind the curtain, if you're willing. What inspired you to write the story that you submitted?
So it's Shadows in the Renovation. I wrote that after I went on like I probably had. So I will read books and I'll listen to books, and I'll do like both at the same time, sometimes like of different books. So I read a whole bunch and listened to a whole bunch of Ruth Ware all at once. And so I was like really into this, like, oh, it gotta be a thriller. So it's about a woman who had, and like she's with her husband, and she has a secret, a really dark secret. And you essentially discover that secret through like these little clues that I've been kind of laying down until like obviously the big reveal at the end. But he also has a secret too, which you don't find out till later. So hopefully that's not giving away too much. But it's like the puzzles within puzzles, right? I've never written really anything with like a mom, because she's a baby, and so I kind of liked that. It was like just like an obstacle, like this extra challenge of like, okay, how do you like put the baby around without making it seem like kind of annoying, like, oh, you're just like repeating stuff, but also how can you have it as like this added element of like stress? So I had a fun time adding that in as well.
Sorry. Really liked how you layered the sounds and used the sounds of the child, of this baby, throughout the story to increase the tension for the reader. I thought that was really effective.
Yeah, I think I actually really like sensory details. That's my like one of my favorite things is like it's going to be sounds or you're going to smell something. And usually it's things to add in the stress, or like when I write my romances, it's like to heighten this like desire, or it's just both and it's just chaos. So who knows?
How often is there a screaming child as heightening desire?
No. Yeah, well, that's not.
Oh, just kidding.
Yeah. I just mean like if it's like a romance, there's like this, like they're in the bed and there's the beds are crinkling and there's like tapping of like water on the window. I don't know, like rain, something like that.
Gotcha. When you tell people that you like to read and write horror, what does that word, and I know that it will mean different things to different people, including the people we tell that to, but could you tell us what that word means to you? Like, can you give us your working definition of the word horror as a genre concept?
There's a lot of bits and pieces, and like there's a lot of subgenres within horror. But what I would think, if we're just going to do like a complete umbrella term, it's like what makes you afraid. It's building tension and suspense, and in whatever form that is, whether it's body horror or psychological horror, like it's all about, no matter what it is, it's all about building up that emotion, and like to the point that a reader can't handle it, and then they like just cut it out, and then you're just like, oh, like there's that relief, and you're like, oh, I'm glad that that's over, because I tried to do that in my writing, and that's actually what I like. I love it when I'm reading it, because obviously I'm like, oh, I'm so stressed out, I can't handle this, but I'm like, oh, I can't stop. Thriller, to some people, depending on marketing, could also be horror, right? Like there's like different slight elements and stuff, but some people will think a thriller story is actually a horror story, and I think it's all to do with that, like that suspense and tension,
That unpleasant feeling.
yeah.
When I feel frightened while I'm reading horror, I immediately become disinterested and I put it down and I don't want to read it anymore. I read like 80 horror books a year, but it's not a boast when I say they don't frighten me, but like I'm not in it for the scares. I don't want to be scared. If I become truly scared, I'm immediately like, no, thank you.
Okay.
There is a kind of like safe kind of engaging with discomfort that I think is more what I think of. And I am like the weirdo for whom horror should never be about being afraid. I don't want to be afraid, but I do want to have unpleasant thoughts in a way that's safe to engage.
I actually really like that you brought that up, because so I went to StokerCon recently, and they have that I don't know if you've been to it, but they have like this film festival at the one of the nights, and you watch these like 13-minute or less videos that are all like in this competition, and they can be really good. But I found, I don't know if it was a fear thing, so much as like such an unpleasantness for like certain stories. Like I actually kind of hate body horror. It like disgusts me, and I
have the same response.
Yeah, I don't like to read that stuff, because like I guess maybe it unsettles me so much that I'm like, I'm not even enjoying it. Or if there's something like I'm truly afraid of, like there's a Black Mirror episode where, I'm going to spoil it, I don't know, but this one guy, they essentially ask like, what is like your worst fear? You're going to experience it in this VR world. And at first it's like silly things like, oh, spiders, haha, darkness, like what, like that's like the blanket, everyone is a little afraid of those things. But like what truly scared him was that his grandma had Alzheimer's, and then like the VR game set, like it went wrong, and so suddenly the game malfunctioned, and it actually showed his true fear, which was having Alzheimer's. And like I would like that kind of stuff like freaks me out so much that I don't actually like, because I don't like Alzheimer's. Like that actually is a deep fear of mine. So when I saw that Black Mirror episode, I was like, I couldn't watch Black Mirror for a while, because it like actually, like that actually freaked me out. And because there is that safety. I agree. I like feeling like that atmosphere scare, and I like the light scare things, but I mostly like the puzzles. And that's why I think I usually like a mystery horror or a thriller type horror, because it's like I'm engaging with it and I'm like, ooh, a little stressed, but it's never too bad. Yeah.
Cost of Living is being put out by Whisper House Press, which is a new press. And so I'm curious what drew you to the call, to the call for submissions, not like the spiritual call of Cost of Living. We could talk about that another time. But the call that went out said suburban horror, psychological horror, social horror, and then it cited a number of things like Jordan Peele's Get Out. It also cited Vivarium, and kind of like other very specifically suburban horror things. So I'm wondering what about this call was interesting to you, how you heard about the call.
Well, I heard about it because of you, because I do know you. But I find that suburban horror, because my story is set in this like house, like that they've been renovating and stuff, and it's everything that happens in the house is like freaky, and the story, and so that kind of fit as well. But I also find that like we think of safety as this, we can come home to safety, we can kind of rely on it no matter how terrible the day was, you can always come back home. But like, what if you can't come home? Like, what if your home is what's causing the most stress, but you almost can't leave it because that'll cause you more stress? And I really like that concept.
I appreciated that. I read a book recently called The Grip of It, which was a haunted house story, but maybe the house is haunted and maybe it's not, that kind of thing, because of how the people are responding to it and to one another. It's like a husband and wife duo type thing. And it was a really, really well-written book. And that's the kind of thing that I have in mind when I talk about psychological horror. What's next for you? Like, what are your goals for the coming year? What are you working on? And where else can we find you out in the world of literary stuff?
I'm part of a publishing house. I'm co-owning a publishing house that specifically does anthologies, Collective Tales Publishing, and we kind of pump out anthologies once a year. This year we're doing twice a year. We have Darkness 102, which is like this fun 102 word stories. It's like 102 stories, which I think is nice. But that's like a one cool thing that I'm really excited about. Obviously, I've published, I'm publishing in this, I'm publishing in other anthologies and with the press that I own as well. But I also want to be like, a big time author, like in the skies author. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But I finished my dystopian romance. It's a novel. Yeah, so that's my thing. Is hopefully to be a novel, like to have novels published. Because right now it's just been anthologies. I want a novel.
I hope for that for you.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to the anthologies that y'all are publishing as well. Yeah. And I have high hopes that we're both going to become famous because of those two anthologies.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be so famous.
Yeah. This anthology, I don't know if you saw the list of contributors. I was really impressed with the variety of folks who submitted. Like, they had different perspectives, and collection of folks is awesome. We have like first time publishing authors, and we have like people who have already won the Stoker Award. It's exciting to be a part of it. I'm really excited that you're a part of it. And I hope that your story wins a Stoker Award, and that the anthology on the whole wins at least a few Stoker Awards.
At least a few, right? And yeah, no.
Yeah.
And one final thing too, you had asked where to find me. People can find me on Instagram. It's Elizabeth Suggs, that's Suggs, author. And you can also just like find me on Facebook on that as well, to my Facebook page. But it's more impressive if you go to Instagram.
Is there anything that I didn't ask that you would like me to ask? Anything you want to talk about that we just haven't talked about?
When this is done, are you going to do a new anthology? Like, what are your plans?
That's a great question. Thank you. From the front, Liz in the front of the room. I'll answer that softball. I don't think you know though, right? It's a genuine question, right?
It's a genuine question.
I am intending to put out a call next year for submissions on workplace horror. So I really like the idea of like the everyday. And so we've got like suburban horror, and then we could do workplace horror. Maybe we could do like travel horror after that. I don't know. I'm like kind of, I have my wheels spinning about the kind of stories that I would like to be publishing. I think at some point I would like to publish novels through this press, but that feels kind of far away, especially since if I'm editing a novel at this point, I want it to be my novel. Yeah. I feel like there's a different benefit to editing anthologies, and I'm really liking that experience. So far, there's been no element of it I have not liked. To be able to edit a story in one sitting, or like offer editorial comments in one sitting, really feels like success. Every time I sit down and manage to do it one time, I feel success for that time. And it's very different with editing novels. So
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the interview, appreciate your contribution, your perspective, and your experience. So thanks in all the ways.
Yeah, thank you so much for being asking me to do this. I love interviews.
Cool. Me too. Thanks.
Yeah. See you.